Here at the Save It for Parts channel, I admit I have a pantry problem. I buy food at the store, I bring it home, and it goes into this dark hole to die. Okay, there is a light in here, but still, stuff goes into the pantry and it escapes my mind completely after that. I have no idea what's in here. I know some food definitely exists down here, but as far as what it is, how old it is, when it expires, how much of it we have, all of that is a complete mystery. Now, I've tried organizing things with incoming and outgoing boxes. For example, this one on the left just came in from Costco. The one on the right is all expired stuff that we need to use up or get rid of. But that ends up just sitting here in the box forever because I don't get around to inventorying it. Then when I do inventory things, it's on an old school clipboard, which is satisfying to write on, but this lives in the pantry, so it's basically just as useless as the rest of this stuff. I have no idea what's on the list. I'm terrible about taking things off the list when I come down here to grab something, so I kind of don't know why I waste my time on the paper inventory. And yes, I fully realize this is 100% a first world problem. Oh no, I have too much food. But it would be nice to reduce food wastage, be able to figure out meal plans, and not buy more and more of the same thing if we already have it down here. So I'm looking for a better solution to keep this thing under control. So over here in the tech closet, which is just as messy, if not worse. Actually, yeah, that's way worse. That is way more messy than the pantry. Anyway, I have a ton of barcode scanners in here somewhere, like actual barcode scanners that they use at grocery stores for taking inventory, and I was hoping I could use those or something like that to keep my life organized. Unfortunately, all of that barcoding stuff uses closed source, obscure proprietary software that you can't get your hands on as an individual. It uses obscure closed source, big budget database systems that nobody knows how to use and nobody in the real world can afford other than a massive grocery chain. It also mostly runs on operating systems like Windows CE, which again is kludgy, old, slow, not very reliable, and impossible to find software for. So I've been going around and around with that for a while, trying to figure out, can I use a barcode system to keep stuff organized, and I've kind of given up on that. So now my plan is kind of just regular old Google Documents, just a spreadsheet, and somewhere, I think in this bag, I have some tablet computers. I got a few of these from a tech auction for not very much money. They're a little scuffed up. They're missing the hard drive or SSD, but I think I can pop it open and replace that. I might even have an SSD. Yeah, I do. I bought an SSD for it years ago and just never put it in because it's a pain to get into the enclosure on that tablet. So if I use a cloud-based database or even just a spreadsheet on Google Documents, I can look at that from wherever. We can have another tablet in the kitchen, we can pull up our inventory, we can track things as they come in, as they go out. Again, that's the idea. I'm going to see if this actually happens in practice or if I just stick with throwing random food into the pantry and pulling random food out. These tablets are annoying to work with because Samsung decided to not use screws. They're put together like a giant cell phone where you basically have to pry up all around the edges of the plastic, and if you use a knife or something, it just ruins the edge. So you have to get one of those special stupid little plastic scoop things. Again, first world problems. Why did Samsung have to make their tablets so nice and smooth instead of just putting giant Phillips screws everywhere? Fortunately, I have a bunch of those little stupid plastic things. I think I actually showed in a prior video, I was going to try to use one of these Panasonic Toughbook tablets as the inventory system, because that actually has a barcode reader on it as well, but these were also a hassle and I couldn't get any drivers installed. I kind of gave up on those. What it would be really fun to use would be the old Tandy 100. No barcode reader, but you could just sit there and input everything manually. You get to see about 8 lines at a time of your database, but these came with a database program, and you could write new software in Microsoft Basic if you wanted, but yeah, that would be fun, but completely impractical. Let's see if we can get this silly thing open. I think this little plastic pry bar will do it. All right, there are the guts of the Samsung 700T tablet. This is where the SSD goes. I actually did one of these before. I might have had a video about that when I turned one of these into a drawing tablet. It's a really nice screen on the front. It's almost a Wacom tablet where it'll do pen-based drawing. And I don't know if I actually have another stylus for this thing, but I think I can just use my finger too. We're not going to be drawing with this one, so it doesn't have to be super accurate. Now, I just installed Ubuntu Linux onto the computer that Jeff Geerling sent me. Thank you again, Jeff. I've been using that for editing, and it's working great. That means I have a memory stick with a Linux distro ready to go. We've been charging here for a minute. I was also trying to charge this old laptop to see if it would work, but it's one of these USB-powered laptops, and those never seem to work very well. All right, yeah, that seems to be stuck in a boot loop, and now it doesn't want to boot at all. All right, Linux Mint has been my go-to for obscure hardware like this, and it seems to be working better than Ubuntu was. This is kind of working, although the touch sensitivity thinks my fingers are too fat.
The fingers you have used to dial are too fat.
Okay, the touch screen got too annoying, so I did go ahead with the USB hub and keyboard and mouse. All right, so it turns out this is completely unusable as a spreadsheet interface. The touch screen still barely works. The on-screen keyboard basically doesn't work. If I have an external keyboard on the thing, well, what's the point? I might as well just use a laptop then. So I think the tablet idea here is just not going to happen. The tablet for inventory control, just not an appropriate setup. This thing is also not booting consistently. It's got to basically go into the BIOS and manually boot, so this is going back in the junk drawer. I'll try to figure out some use for this later. So after all that screwing around in the video, I think we're back to kind of the least interesting but most reliable and most realistic option of just using an old laptop and sticking it to the wall. All right, we finally have Linux installed on this old laptop, despite the best efforts of Secure Boot and various other modern BIOS nonsense. So now it's time to just cover the entire thing in Velcro tape and stick that onto the wall right about, let's say right about here. So there we go. We finally have a Pantry inventory laptop just stuck to the wall. It is working pretty well, and yeah, it's pretty handy to be able to just come down here and type in what we have, where we have it, and the expiration date. So yeah, handy little system. A little annoying to try to type on the wall here, especially if there's stuff on the floor in front of it, but I'm making it work. All right, I'm gonna wrap this video up. I think this was just a quick one. I've been trying to do this Pantry inventory computer system for a while. I've been trying to use old computers because I have so many random old computers around, but I ended up having to go with something a little more modern. I think this one's from the mid-2000s, so it's okay. It works fine, and it works well enough to jump online, jump on Google Documents, and really that's been the simplest way to inventory in here is just Google Documents. Fancy databases, fancy barcode scanning, none of that really worked out. So maybe we'll come up with something better in the future, but for now, I think I'm going to wrap this one up. Thanks to everyone for watching, and we'll see you next time.